Hermione's Song, Chapter 11. Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry had spent most of the day before in Quidditch practice, gone to bed early, and fallen asleep as soon as his head touched the pillow. His eyes snapped open and he lay still, trying to discover what had woken him. He glanced out the window and saw the dawn had just barely arrived. Experience had taught him to trust his hunches, and he knew something had startled him awake. A muffled yelp from the common room confirmed his fears, and he shot out of bed, taking his wand out from underneath his pillow. "Ron! Wake up! Someone's in trouble in the common room!" he yelled. Ron sat straight up in bed and grabbed his wand from the holster he had hung on the headboard. From the tone of Harry's voice, Ron knew now was not the time to argue about lost sleep. Another yelp fixed this in his mind, and he took his place by Harry's side. Harry flicked his wand at the door and whispered, "Silencio!" Ron nodded once after the spell was cast. They had practiced this particular maneuver many times skulking around Hogwarts after hours. Both young men held their wands at the ready, and Ron pushed the door open with his foot, giving Harry room to sneak through. A third painful yelp made them forget any sort of caution. It was clear to both of them that the yelp had come from Hermione. Ron slammed the door open wide enough for both of them to run through. He was a few steps behind Harry when his friend came to a sudden stop at the top of the stairs. "Harry! We have to help!" Ron started to yell when he registered the fact that Harry was laughing. "What's so bloody funny?" he demanded. Harry just nodded towards the common room. Ron followed his gaze, rolled his eyes, and tucked his wand into the pocket of his pajamas. "Leave it to Hermione to try and get a jump on even this homework," he sighed. Ron turned around and walked back up to his bed, hoping to salvage another hour of sleep. Harry walked down to the bottom of the stairs so he could watch Hermione practice with Remus's Pyramid of Pain, as Ron had dubbed it. She had set the pyramid to project 2 Death Eaters at once. After she neutralized one, it would reappear in a different location 5 seconds later. Hermione was whispering her spells in an attempt not to wake her fellow Gryffindors, something that was severely hampering her chances at holding her own against a pair of Death Eaters. Harry walked over and tapped the top of the pyramid to turn it off. Hermione's back was to the pyramid, and she spun around when the Death Eaters dissolved back into the ether.
"Oh, Harry, I'm so sorry I woke you. I was trying to be as quiet as I could," she tried to apologize.
Harry chuckled and pointed his wand at the ceiling and walls. "Audio reflectus," he said with a double flick and swish of his wand. "Fred George taught me that spell the last time I was at the Burrow. They said it was the only way they could listen to music in their room without their mom telling them to turn it down," he explained. "Sound won't leave the room, but it might get uncomfortably loud for us on this side," he warned her.
"Us?"
Hermione inquired, still a bit embarrassed at waking Harry and Ron. Harry nodded while he picked up a practice wand and rotated the middle segment of the pyramid, setting it for 2 trainees. "Us," he confirmed. Taking a deep breath, Harry touched the top of the pyramid to activate it, and then ran to join Hermione in the center of the room. "Back to back!" he shouted, turning to face away from Hermione. "Expelliarmus!" they both yelled, sending 2 of the 4 blue Death Eaters crashing into the walls, where they exploded into a fine blue mist. Ron shook his head at Harry and Hermione as they passed through the fat lady's door on their way to breakfast. "Don't you think we take enough physical abuse from real Death Eaters?" he asked sarcastically as he saw both of them trying to rub sore spots out of their shoulders. Hermione and Harry started to chuckle.
"Apparently someone needs to relearn his right from his left,"
she teased Harry. "I thought you meant your right, not mine," Harry replied, trying to defend himself. Noticing Ron's blank look, Harry explained. "We were trying a move where we jumped away at the same time, to see if we could confuse the pyramid. Unfortunately, we jumped in the same direction and collided in mid-air," he admitted. "The pain from the pyramid wore off long ago, but I bet this bruise will take a while to heal," he said while massaging the already dark bruise. Ron shook his head and closed the fat lady's painting. The instant the painting clicked into place, the fat lady squealed in excitement when she saw the students.
"Oh, Hermione, dear, there is something that I just have to tell you,"
she blurted out. Her eyes grew wide as they all heard the noise of a metal gauntlet being balled into a fist from one of the other paintings. The fat lady swallowed hard in panic.
"I, forgot to tell you happy birthday the other day, so, happy birthday,"
she spat out, and then ran off to hide behind her frame. "I always knew she was mental. That's a bit weird, even for her," Ron suggested, his eyebrows creased in concern. Harry turned around slowly, looking closer at the other paintings. In a few of them there were signs of a disturbance. A broken chair here, a smashed table there, and a few of the people in the paintings were sporting black eyes. When he finished his turn, he was looking at the painting where Sir Cadogan had taken up residence, after he had pestered Filch to move him closer to the Gryffindor dormitory. Sir Cadogan had requested this move after the fat lady had taken up her post as the gatekeeper to the Gryffindor dormitory once again. Most of the students suspected the barmy old knight had developed quite the crush on their rotund guard. That morning, Sir Cadogan was missing from his painting, and in his place was a much taller, younger-looking knight dressed in plain, serviceable armor. "Where's Sir Cadogan?" Harry asked the newcomer. The younger knight let his balled-up fist relax before he turned his attention to Harry. Removing his helmet, the new knight shook out his shoulder-length blond hair. "Sir Cadogan has taken an indefinite holiday, I'm afraid," he replied and tucked his helmet under his arm. Harry pointed to the mayhem in the other paintings. "Did you do all this?" he inquired. The young knight smirked a little as he saw how the other paintings made it a point to look anywhere but at him. "Unfortunately, there was a small disagreement over the relative merits of gossip," he replied with a shrug. "The other paintings were spreading things about a good friend of mine that were none of their affairs. My brothers-in-arms and I decided to put a stop to it," he admitted casually. The knight bent slightly at the waist to get a better look at Harry's forehead. "Well, hello, Sir Harry. I thought I might get to see you here," he greeted when he saw the famous lightning bolt scar. Harry was embarrassed by the knight suggesting that he might be worthy of such a title. Not meeting the knight's eyes, he replied, "No, sir. It's just plain Harry." "Is that so?" the knight inquired. He smirked again as he put his helmet back on his head. "Perhaps time is just waiting for the right monarch to have the honor of granting you that title," he said cryptically before he closed his visor and made some minor adjustments to how the helmet was seated. Once his helmet was firmly in place, the knight's head slowly turned from side to side, keeping a constant watch on the other paintings. As the other students continued their way to the Great Hall for breakfast, Harry glanced back at the knight. "Any idea who the paintings were talking about that got the knight so upset?" he asked his friends. Hermione scowled, deep in thought.
"I have no idea who he was referring to, but something about that knight seems vaguely familiar. I just wish I could put my finger on it," she complained.
Ron just shrugged his shoulders and urged the other two to move along faster, with slight pushes on the smalls of their back. Breakfast was one of his 3 favorite meals, after all, and the sooner they got there, the sooner he could start eating.